It's a big day for Lumix users like myself because Lumix announced the updated S5 Mark II with phase detect autofocus. And that's not face detect, which admittedly many people might get wrong, including myself for some time, but it's PHASE phase detect, but it works kind of like Sony's. And from what I've seen in the footage, it's looking good. And I'm so excited because it's something I've been waiting for Lumix for a long time. And let me share a little bit of why. I'm Danny Rubio. I'm a full-time video producer here in Utah. I make videos for all sorts of brands. If you want to know more and follow my journey as I do my first year of doing this full-time rather than for a company, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Having cameras with good autofocus made it possible for people who are doing solo video work to do more stuff that required more of a team. Not to say that it's not good or that you shouldn't be using a team when available, because you're always going to get a better quality like story slash production when you have a team, because you have people who are dedicated to those aspects. But when you're like me, who is spending a lot of time creating all sorts of content for not only yourself but for clients, that's super key. However, there's another side to that. Because I'm working for other people and doing things like, as a solo person trying to get things done, having a camera system that provides features that like professionals use, like shutter angle and waveform monitoring and really good audio preamps, as well as amazing IBIS, like these features that are so useful and help you get the best quality image that you can, like that stuff is almost, to me, sometimes more important in the autofocus, except for that those several times when the one shot that you need does require having very reliable autofocus, which admittedly I've been burned. I know that this has happened to me and to other people where you have a shot and the autofocus just, like messes up. So you're trying to do manual focus or whatever, and you're doing a one-man band and you miss that shot. And it can be detrimental in some cases, especially if you're doing weddings or other like things that you can't reshoot, that can really hurt you. Now, you can save yourself in the edit or in other aspects, but it still goes to say that like that's the one thing that Panasonic has struggled with. But with the new S5, it has me so excited because right now, my camera kit consists of the S5, the S1H, which is what I'm recording on right now, and a Blackmagic Pocket 6K. The 6K I got because I wanted more of a cinema camera. Lumix, although they have a cinema camera, it's still $6,000. That's a ton of money. It's not to say that I couldn't do that or whatever, but like I needed something that could provide me a 3 camera setup for a client that is doing a podcast. I have to figure out where I can put my dollars and put it where it matters. To me, spending some additional income on a studio space and some help in editing and producing content for my clients allows me to produce more stuff for them, and in turn allow me to charge more. With a camera that comes in like the Lumix S5 or even S5 Mark II at $2,000 for just the body and like $2,400 for the camera and a great kit lens, that can really take you to the next level. I've always been impressed with Lumix's like image quality as well as their ergonomics. That's something that I think that's underrated, the ergonomics of the camera body that you have. Now, that can vary on who you are and what type of content you'll be shooting, but as a video shooter, I love Lumix's like ergonomics, and something that when I go to like other cameras that I miss often. Like the like I want a button for X, Y, and Z, or be able to customize those buttons to whatever I need it to be. I'm so excited because I'll probably be setting in some of my cameras. I'm probably going to keep the S1 Mark I because even though the autofocus isn't going to be as good as the new one, it does still provide me the ability to record in RAW, which you have to do the S5 2X, which I don't want to do because I'd rather switch and get two S5 IIs because I can get rid of my S1H and the Blackmagics, and go have it all kind of be the same body, because the S1H is thick with 3 Cs, man. Now, one thing I will be testing is the autofocus with Sigma lenses. I found that when I use this S5 or even S1H, if I'm using native lenses, that I can get pretty decent autofocus, about 85% there. And then that next little bit, I might have to switch over to, if I need something specific, I might have to switch over to manual focus or whatever it might be. But for the good chunk of time, I can get what I need with the updated autofocus in the S5. That's when it still kind of struggles, but I'm using it now, and I think with some of the firmware updates that they have produced, it's been decent enough, especially for like talking head stuff like this. But if you're moving, that was something that's something that I've struggled with. I've had full days where I've had to talk with Sean here in my studio about like, should I switch to Canon? Should I switch to Sony? Should I switch to, something else? Because that having the autofocus as a one-man band can really help you, and especially when you're doing it by yourself. I do think this is an amazing camera for what you can get out of it. And if you're like, if you're somebody like me who tries to either is a freelancer or makes a living, and you're like, you need to get your dollars to go a little bit further, the S5 really is an amazing option for you, especially with the S5 Mark II. Obviously, I don't have it in my hand, and once I do, I'll give you my reactions and my perspective. But the fact that they have updated it with Face Detect is wonderful, because I'm excited to see other creators go and use that, because it's such an amazing camera, especially if you're like me and you like to go handheld, run and gun, and get shots that you like. Some people would think are on a gimbal or a slider. That's something that I've loved about Lumix, is the IBIS, and be able to get stuff that I can keep my gear low, because that's something I really like. And I think that the options now are going to be, you could go with, if you're going to try to get into like have a multiple camera kit, the FX30 is going to be a great option for you, or the S5. I think really that's going to be there. If you're a solo shooter, I could think you could also go with a Canon R6 Mark II, but if that's only if you're like a solo creator. I think if you're going to do like professional work, whether that be with like a small team or even yourself with like clients, I think the S5 still, or even, FX30 are still really good options. I probably would still recommend the S5 over the A7 R4, mostly because of the IBIS in that aspect. You get some really great stuff with less gear than with some of these other camera manufacturers. Just, this is my 2 cents. I hope you take it for what it's worth. But again, really excited for this new update, and love to hear what your guys' thoughts on where camera technology is today in the comments down below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Hasta luego.